I'm debating whether or not I'm going to use the word failure in the title of this video. I already did a video where I talked about changing and how my life is leveling up, or I outgrew my old life. And it doesn't mean that I failed. It just means that I changed. And I'll be really, really honest with you. The word failure for me is very tender. I think I mentioned this in a previous video, in the video that I was talking about just now. The word failure to me denotes that I did not succeed at something. Now, that's not bad, but I am someone who has connected success with being good and failure with being bad, as in being a bad person. Well, if you failed at this, then it means you're bad. So I'm really vacillating whether or not I want to use the word failure, but in either case, what I do want to talk about in this video, as I did a very long intro, is to discuss the things that I learned about my business not coming to fruition the way that I thought, hoped, planned for it to. With InHer Power, my spiritual wellness business, I had been working on that for a good 10 years. I started, I want to say back in 2015. I don't even remember when I really started it. But in either case, I had every intention of seeing this spiritual wellness business blossom for Black women, for queer people of color. And in some respects, it did succeed in a lot of ways. I'm sure if somebody was looking at a lot of the wins that I had, they would say, well, yeah, you did absolutely wonderful. And yet I still felt as though I was not performing the way that I wanted to. And I intentionally use the word perform. When I did not decide to let the business go. God was telling me to give the business away and just hand it over. So I did, begrudgingly, but I ultimately knew that that was the best decision for me to make. When I gave the business over, as emotional as I was, as heartbroken as I was, I began to see what I learned, what I had gained. And when it became time to pivot into something else, I was able to take all of those lessons, particularly the ones where I wasn't up to par in what I wanted or how I envisioned myself to be or how I envisioned the business to be. I took those losses, those failures, and transmuted them, turned them into gold. I like to call myself a spiritual alchemist, you know. The first thing that I learned is that I had to bring my full self. If you're someone who, whether you're starting a business, whether you're going into a new relationship, wanting a romantic relationship, maybe you like the job that you have and you want to grow within that job, you can't half-ass it. You have to bring your full self. And I want to be very clear, because I have a job that I was holding back, and I don't give 100% of everything that I'm capable of doing. And I think that's important. I think it's important to not give 100% of yourself in every single bucket of your life. You got to save some pieces for yourself. Now, with that being said, some people might have a difference of opinion about that and say, well, you got to give 100%. You got to give 110%. Listen, if that works for you, cool. I find that specifically for work things, that it's important that I keep some aspects of myself to myself, or I dial down some of my greatness. That's how I'm going to say it. I dial it down, because the expectation then becomes, oh, well, if this is what you're capable of and you can do this on any given day, then you should do this all the time. And I want it to be more of a surprise of, oh, Kendall can do this. And also, I like to take into account that I'm not going to be top performing every single day. I'm not going to be at the top of my game all the time. And so to give everything up front all at once is setting myself up for failure, honestly. But in either case, the parts that I do give, the parts that I do reveal and present, I have to be fully invested. With my wellness business, InHer Power, I was invested in this dream, this kind of idyllic vision that I had, but I did not bring my full self to the dream, which, looking back, I see that more clearly now. At the time, I would have said that. I would have said to you, no, I'm bringing my full self, but I really wasn't. And I can give you a very clear example of how I was not. I had a dream for this business. I was the one that created the business, and I was bringing people on because I didn't want to be the face. I didn't want to be the person in the front. I actually wanted to buffer people around me, kind of having like a board of directors that was more visible, and have those people be the face, or have multitudes of people be the face of the business and not me. And that did not work because, one, God was very clearly telling me, this is your thing. You have to be in the front. You have to take the lead. And so many times I found myself stepping back, settling down, when I had certain dreams or visions or plans, and I would talk to other people about them, or there would be meetings that were involved. Gizmos in the background if you hear some noises. If there were meetings that were involved with other people, I didn't act like or talk like the person who was the one that created the business, or I didn't even talk like the CEO. I talked as if I was a high level person, but I didn't talk as the person who had the vision and the dream. That translated into workshops that I did. While I was very confident in what it was that I was sharing, and very confident in leading people and giving classes and courses and working with clients one-on-one, there was still a level of uncertainty, and there was still a level of, I can't do this fully by myself. I had to do workshops with other people because I just didn't want all of the things to fall on my shoulders. And here's why. If it failed, then it was all on me. Okay? Which, that's an obvious. But if it succeeded, it was all on me. And the reason why I was afraid of that was because if it does well, then I'm going to have to keep going. I'm going to have to keep showing up. And I might have to show up even more than I did before in order for the momentum to keep going, or even to build. There may be an ask that I feel is beyond my capacity, and suddenly I'm going to have to stretch myself even more in ways that I didn't even think of. And that scared me. So instead of putting myself out and being fully 100, like giving the fullness of myself 100%, I held back. And I'm sure people could sense that. I'm sure people noticed that. I certainly had a hint of it. I just didn't want to say it out loud. I didn't want to acknowledge it. And that's really, for lack of a better term, that's really effed up. That's really effed up, because the vision that I had, the dream that I had for this business, for InHer Power, really meant that I am asking people to show up as their full selves in these workshops, in these classes, in these courses that I'm giving, and I'm not doing the same. That's not fair. That's not right. And I can't sustain that, particularly for this particular, especially for this particular business that I had created. It just, that wasn't going to sustain itself over time. So showing up as my full self. Now, I've also recognized the capability, I don't want to say that, I've also recognized this in my 9-to-5 job. I was reserved, I held back. Now, I still excelled in ways where I stood out, and once again, did not give 100% or 110%. I scaled back, and even with the scaling back, I still excelled in ways that made me stand out. And for a minute, I got kind of scared when I could feel things slowly increasing, and I was being given more responsibility, that meant that I could no longer be isolated. And I loved to be isolated at my job. I loved to be an island, just doing my own thing. Give me my assignment, I can do it, and I will finish it and get done, and we will move on with the day, and give me my paycheck and we're good. But there were things that were being asked of me where I had to really have more responsibility. There were places, or times I should say, where I was put in rooms and meetings with upper level, higher level folks in the company, and I had to be able to use my voice and not be afraid to advocate for myself, to advocate for other people. And I could see how this all was correlating to the business, my business, and how, oh yeah, okay, I see where the mistakes were made. I can see where I got tripped up and it didn't come to fruition the way that I really wanted it to. And ultimately, I think it happened exactly the way that it was supposed to happen. So I don't regret how the business eventually dissolved and deteriorated. I think that I know that it had to happen that way to show me the truer form of what it is that I need to be and how I need to model whatever business I have thus far, whether it's my business or whether I'm investing in someone else's business. The parts of me that I am presenting, the parts of me that I'm showing, it's got to be 100% for those parts. Like I said, may not be every aspect of me that I'm showing, but for the aspects that I'm showing, got to show up fully as myself. The other thing that I learned in my business failing is that just because you put in time does not mean that it's going to succeed. I had a conversation with a coworker, and they were talking about being married, and they're married for a good amount of years. I'm not going to give the number, but nothing with a single digit, I'll say. Married for a good amount of years, and was talking in a very proud way of how they have been in this relationship for X amount of years. But then when I was listening to other stories about their life and the journey and some of the day-to-day that they're experiencing in the present, I said to myself, this is not healthy. This is not healthy. And I was thinking about this also with friendships that I've had, where there can be longevity, there can be time in, and you and this other person have just built this kind of momentum. You've had this certain groove, you've had this certain flow for so long. And yes, you can say you've been friends for X amount of years. You can say that you've been married for X amount of years. But does the years equate to healthy, stable, secure, safe, vulnerable, open self? Does it equate to all of that? And if it doesn't, then you can take a 10-year relationship, friendship, romantic, whatever the case may be, and say out of the 10 years, there's a solid 2 years where things were very healthy. and it doesn't even have to be 2 consecutive years. It could be a week here, a month here, a day here, some hours here, and all of that coalesces together in a 2-year period out of 10 years. I had been working on this business for 10 years. And just because I had been working on it for 10 years, and I would tell people, yeah, I've been working on this business for 10 years, didn't mean that it was successful for 10 years, didn't mean that I was reaping any sort of benefit, success, of anything that, I don't even say profit. I'm not trying to whittle this down to simply money. Tangible things where I could see there was an impact that I was making, that the impact didn't just stay in one realm or one area, that it was actually growing and that it was extending, and that the relationships that I had built in the beginning with the business were still there and being maintained and nurtured as I was expanding. None of those things were happening. I would build something over here, tend to that, shift to something else, then this would collapse, and then I'd move to this, and then okay, this was what I was tending to. Then I'd find another thing that would collapse, right? So it was a lot of just haphazard, like whack-a-mole essentially, is just trying to, oh, what's going to work? Oh, pivot to this, oh, pivot to that, without any sort of sustained plan. That's another thing, kind of separate, but I didn't have a sustained plan. And so because of that, I was all over the place. So the 10 years that I worked on this business really wasn't anything that I could pinpoint and really say to myself, yeah, it's 10 years of success. It's 10 years of growth. It's 10 years where I could look and say, yeah, I can see how I started here and how I finished here. Because I could have done 10 years, and instead of letting the business go or being told to let the business go by God, I could have done 10 years and sold the business. It could have been something that I said, you know what? I'm done with this. I think that I've done all that I can do. There's nothing else that I can give. Let me sell it. Let me give it over. And then it could have continued on. I could have still been a part of it in some way, but it could have continued. That was not the case. So that showed me that, okay. What did I learn from that? What did I gain from that knowledge in those 10 years? And that's something, this has been a lesson that has been so instrumental for me in many different areas of my life. Like I said, not just my business, but my personal life. Time in, and when I tell y'all, we hold up time. We hold up years as if it is the marker of success, and it's not. It's really not. We all know relationships that we've seen that have been, oh yeah, I've been married for 30 years. Yeah, and how are things in those 30 years? How has it been? Now, that's not to say everything has to be smooth sailing. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be hills and valleys. We know that. But even in those valleys, are there things that you're learning that, yeah, it's bad, and there's some things that you have to really kind of weigh the cost and see how you're going to continue. Of course, it's important to stick things out. Of course, it's important to not just throw in the towel and give up. Yes, you want to do all those things, but you also want to make sure that it's not at the detriment of you and the other person, or you and the other parties involved. If now it's causing a lot of rupture, that's only going to cause more scar tissue as the years go on, and there isn't an active like repair and sort of amend work that happens as we're going up the hill or going up that mountain, coming out of that valley. If there isn't that work that's happening, then it's just going to be a lot of that repetitive. You're going to be in the valley, and it's going to be constant scarring and rescarring over time. So to me, I think, yes, the dips and the dips, the highs and the lows, the highs and the lows will always be there in anything in life. And nothing will ever be a sustained high. That just is impossible. Just like nothing will ever be a sustained low. But there has to be some sort of, I don't want to say proof, but there has to be some sort of, proof that, okay, this dip that we're in, this dip that I'm in, what am I learning from this? What am I gaining from this? What's the wisdom from this? And how can I take this wisdom, transmute it into something so that I can take it and use it as fuel to get me to that mountaintop? Because I know there's going to be another valley. I know there's going to be another dip. And rather than have a dip that has the same exact circumstances, situations, patterns as the previous valley, this next valley, yeah, it's going to be a low, it's going to be a dip, but it's going to be different because I've ascended to this new height, because I've learned from this previous valley. This other dip, this other valley isn't going to be the same. It's not going to be identical, because I don't want to say graduated, but I've learned from the previous valley. I've learned from that. And so this other valley is completely different. I hope that makes sense. I don't really have anything. Well, there were okay. Showing up as full self. Time in doesn't necessarily mean that it's a success. Oh, this was the other one. And knowing when to walk away. Knowing when to walk away. Yes. Is it important? Such a weird way to start this. How I was going to say this was, we learn that it's very important to be able to continue to move forward and not give up when things get rough, when times get hard and suddenly we're presented with adversity. We're taught, gotta keep moving, gotta keep pushing, because like I said, there's gonna be another mountain, there's gonna be another valley. Okay, that makes sense. Yes, I totally understand that, totally get that. And when there has been a lot of valleys, and maybe it's no mountains, maybe they're hills, maybe it's anthills, maybe it's a little like the Florida version of hill, where it's a little bump, it's a sand dune, right? If there's enough of those and it's not really getting you off the ground, and it can also feel like the valleys are getting deeper and deeper. Just when you think, okay, this was a really bad valley, this was a really bad dip, it can't get lower than this. And then when it does, and it keeps happening, I think it's time to call it in. I think it's time to say, you know what, I need to pivot. I need to pivot. And it's not to say that you can't come back to it. It's not to say that you can't revamp it and revive it in another place, in another time, because as time moves on and you learn and you grow, you become a different person. And so it's not to say that I'll never come back to InHer Power, or that it won't happen ever again. But at the very least, I gotta take a step back, and not even so much take a step back to reassess and go into the lab. I've done that numerous times. I think it's a step back of like, you know what, let me just let me take my hands off let me just let it crash and burn. Let me just let it crash and burn. And as difficult as that is, as painful as it is to watch it just go down the ravine, and oh my gosh, there's no coming back from it. There will be. It may not look what it looked like before, but it'll come back in some other way, and it'll come back stronger. So knowing when to let go of something, knowing when it's a wrap, it's done. I've done everything that I can. I've exhausted all possibilities. I've tried this way, I've tried that way, and I've tried each of these things in enough of a span of time where I could see, okay, this isn't working. And it's just kind of continually kicking the can down the road. Yeah. My mind was going off to so many different places of that particular statement. But I'm someone who it's a good thing, it's a good trait to have, and it's also been a detrimental trait to have, is I want to keep trying. I want to keep putting in the effort. I want to keep doing, but there are times when letting my hands off the wheel, completely backing away and saying, you know what, I'm going to call it. For me to be in that space, more so in the recent past of my life, I was really scared to let things go, because I didn't know what that meant for me. I would think to myself, like I said, about failure, like I failed, so it means I'm bad, like I'm a quitter, and I just kind of quit things and I don't stick them out. I think that I'm a pretty tenacious person. I think that I'm pretty determined, and I will try things. I will pivot. Okay, how does this work? How does that work? I think with my business, I was doing that maybe a little too much, especially towards the end. And I wasn't sticking with one model of thing to see how it would progress, and really testing that model over a period of time. I just kept pivoting the moment that something came up and it was not working. And rather than, okay, yeah, this might not be working for this period of time, but let me keep going. And maybe right now it's just the season, maybe it's just the people, maybe it's a multitude of things that isn't necessarily related to me and how I'm presenting my content or how I'm presenting my services. Maybe it's just there's a dip and I just have to kind of keep moving. I kept pivoting so much that I didn't give things a chance to really rest. And so walking away gave me the opportunity to completely turn my brain off as it relates to this, as it relates to the business. Because there had been times in the past where I took a break, but I was still thinking about it. Like, oh, maybe I could do this, or maybe I could try this. And then that translates, or I will segue out, I should say, I'll segue into this other thing, which is do not compare yourself to other people. Don't do it. Do not compare yourself to other people, because their journey has nothing to do with you. Absolutely nothing. Their journey is their journey. Period, point blank. There is nothing that they can offer that you can offer like that's identical. I would look at other people who kind of maybe started something similar, a similar wellness model to mine, like around the same time, and I would see their things skyrocketing, or I'd see them doing things that one, I didn't even consider was possible. But then when I did see it, I said, oh, I want that. I would like to have that. I'd like to try that. I'd like to be offered that. Without really considering, do I really want that? Or do I want that because someone else has it, and now I believe that I should have that too? Comparison, stop it. Even when I would get frustrated because I would say to myself, well, now there's a bunch of people that are doing this and they're all offering very similar things, similar services, similar content to what I'm offering. And I just felt that I would get lost in the sauce. My story is completely specific to me. So the things that I learned and the things that I have taken with me, no one else has. And the other thing about that too, which is still the same thing, is that you don't realize how powerful your thoughts and your speech are. So when I was saying these things of like, well, I'm just going to get lost in the sauce. Guess what? I was. I was getting lost in the sauce because I was saying that. Rather than saying, oh, that's great, that person succeeded at that, but I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to be in my lane. I'm going to be in my wheelhouse, my planet, whatever the case may be. Great. They're doing that over there, and I'm going to stick to my thing over here. Comparing and then talking down to myself based off of the comparison that I was seeing someone else do, so detrimental. I'm not 100%, actually, that's a lie. I'm 100%. I'm 100% out of that loop, that mentality. I'm no longer comparing myself in ways where I talk down about myself, or I compare and I say like, I should be further along, or I should do this. Why don't I have that? Why don't I do that? Why am I not being offered this? Why are people not seeking me out? First of all, like I said, going back to the first one, am I showing up as my full self? Am I showing up as my full self? If I'm not, then how are people even going to connect with me? Number one. Number two, their journey is theirs. Their experience is theirs. The things that they are sharing with the world is specific to them. Comparing myself and then talking bad about the comparison, I don't do that anymore. And I truly feel liberated from that, because I can look at other people and I can see the things that they're doing and say, man, that's absolutely amazing. That's absolutely wonderful. I really thought that I was going to just rock out with InHer Power till I don't even know. I thought it was going to be decades before I finally gave it up. And I even more so thought that, okay, if I were to give it up when God had asked me to give the business over, I thought, oh man, I'm going to be thinking about this all the time. And I'm just going to wonder like, man, should I have done this and should I have done that? Once I let InHer Power go, I really let it go. I did not look back. I did not question. I did not say, oh, maybe I should. No. And even this, what I'm doing right now, though I'm still using my YouTube channel with this content, I do not see them as the same. I do not see the current videos that I'm doing as the spiritual wellness business that I had. So for me, not just in my mind, in my heart, but like in my felt body, completely different, not the same at all. And I think it's very important to have that clear distinction for myself and also for you, for the viewers, because first of all, you don't have anything to compare this to because I got rid of all the videos. And I debated for some time whether or not I should do that. I really said, should I delete all of these? And listen, spirit, my ancestors were like, yeah, yep. And I would have preferred, Kendall would have preferred to keep those videos up because I would want to show the progression of where I was to where I got to be and where I'm going. But listen, when God tells you to do something, when the ancestors say, do this, do it. Don't question, do it. So that was not something that I would have chosen for myself, but it was definitely something that I was guided and instructed to do. And I kind of sat on it for a bit before I made the decision. I said, no, and as we know from a previous video, I have already gone down the path of slow, what's the word? How do I want to say this? Not obedience. I don't really like that word, but kind of slow progression of what it is that I've been instructed and guided to do. So I'm not going to take the long way anymore. I'm going to actually follow when I'm told to do something. So folks, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe and share these videos. Please share them with people that you think it would benefit or value or add something to their lives. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.